Sharon was a young woman who always looked neat and smart. Every morning, she woke up early, ironed her clothes carefully, and made sure everything about her looked perfect. She liked order, she liked control. When she walked, her head was high and her steps were fast, like someone who knew where she was going in life. Sharon worked as the general manager of a big company. At work, people respected her. When she spoke, others listened. When there was a problem, everyone waited for her decision. She had worked hard to reach that position, and she believed that strong people deserved success. In her heart, she felt that life was fair only to those who pushed themselves. Without knowing it, Sharon had slowly learned to judge people by how they looked. Clean clothes meant serious, old clothes meant trouble, rich meant important, poor meant careless. No one had ever corrected her because in her world she was always right. That same morning, far away from Sharon's neat office, Jackson was already awake. His life was very simple. He wore old clothes that many people had seen him wear many times before. He walked slowly through the dusty paths of the market, greeting people with a small smile. Some people greeted him back. Many did not notice him at all. People in the market called him Jackson the Don, not because he was rich, but because he never argued, never begged, and never raised his voice. He helped when he could and kept quiet when he could not. People thought he was just another poor man trying to survive. But what no one knew was that Jackson was actually a very rich man. He owned many businesses and had more money than most people in the city. He lived simply because he wanted to see the world as it truly was. He believed that when you hide your power, you see people's real hearts. Later that day, after a long and stressful meeting, Sharon decided to stop by the market on her way home. The market was not her favorite place, but she needed a few things. She walked in carefully, holding her bag close, already feeling out of place. At the same time, Jackson was standing near a busy stall in that same market, watching people move back and forth. Two lives, two worlds, about to meet, without knowing it. The market was loud and busy. People were shouting prices, cars were hooting, and children were running between stalls. Sharon walked carefully, trying not to let anyone bump into her. She held her handbag tightly under her arm. Her face showed stress. She had a lot on her mind, work problems, phone calls, and deadlines waiting for her tomorrow. She stopped at one stall to check some items. As she leaned forward, the strap of her handbag slowly slid off her shoulder. She did not notice. Her phone, which was not fully inside the bag, began to slip. Jackson was standing a few steps away. He saw everything. He noticed the phone slipping. He also noticed a young boy nearby, watching the bag closely. Jackson understood what was about to happen. Without making noise or causing attention, he stepped forward quickly. Jackson reached out and caught the phone before it fell. At the same time, he gently pushed the bag back toward Sharon so it would not drop. But Sharon did not see kindness. She only felt a sudden movement close to her body. Her heart jumped. Her mind went straight to fear. In that noisy market, all she could think was, "This man is trying something funny." She turned sharply. Before Jackson could even speak, Sharon's hand rose and slapped him across the face. The sound was loud. People around them froze. The boy disappeared into the crowd. The stall owner stopped talking. For a moment, the market felt quiet. Jackson stood still. He did not shout. He did not raise his hands. His eyes showed shock, not anger. Slowly, he held up Sharon's phone, the same phone he had just saved from falling. "This was falling," he said softly. But it was too late. Sharon's face was hot with embarrassment and pride. People were watching. She felt like she had to stand her ground. Instead of listening, she grabbed the phone, pulled her bag closer, and spoke sharply. "Don't ever touch me," she said. Some people nodded in agreement. Others looked away, uncomfortable. A few felt sorry for the quiet man who had just been slapped for helping. Jackson lowered his hand. He said nothing more. Sharon turned and walked away fast, her heels clicking loudly against the ground. Her heart was beating hard. She told herself, "I did the right thing. You can't trust people these days." Still, deep inside, something did not sit right. Behind her, Jackson remained standing in the same spot, his face calm but hurt. The market noise slowly returned, as if nothing had happened. But for both of them, everything had changed. Sharon walked faster as she moved away from the stall. Her heart was still beating hard, like a drum. She held her phone tightly in her hand, her fingers shaking just a little. Around her, the market sounds came back. People talking, laughing, arguing over prices. But inside her head, everything felt loud and quiet at the same time. At first, she told herself she was right. I protected myself, she thought. In a place like this, you must be careful. But as she walked, her steps slowly began to slow down. A picture kept returning to her mind, the look on the man's face when she slapped him. It was not angry, it was not dirty or rude. It was surprised, almost sad. She shook her head as if trying to throw the thought away. I don't have time for guilt, she told herself. Life is tough. People should know their place. Still, her chest felt heavy. She reached the edge of the market and stopped for a moment. She checked her phone. It was safe, not broken, not scratched. That was when her mind whispered a question she did not like. What if he was really helping? She pushed the thought away and continued walking until the market was far behind her. Back at the stall, Jackson had not moved. He stood quietly, his face turned slightly to the side where Sharon's hand had landed. He slowly raised his fingers and touched his cheek. It stung, but the pain was not the worst part. The worst part was the way people looked at him. Some with laughter, some with pity, some with nothing at all. A woman nearby shook her head and whispered, "Poor man." Another man muttered, "These days, being kind is dangerous." Jackson heard everything, but he said nothing. The stall owner looked at him with concern. "You were only helping," the man said softly. Jackson nodded. "It's okay," he replied. He bent down and helped an old woman pick up some tomatoes that had rolled onto the ground. He handed them back to her carefully, one by one. She smiled at him and thanked him. That small smile eased his heart more than any words could. After that, Jackson slowly walked away from the stall. As he moved through the market, people continued with their business. The moment was already becoming a story, then a rumor, then nothing. But inside Jackson, the moment stayed alive. He understood something very clearly now. Many people do not see who you are, they only see what you look like. When Jackson reached the road, a simple-looking car stopped for him. He got in quietly. The driver greeted him with respect. Jackson nodded and sat back, staring out the window. He did not feel anger. He did not plan revenge. Instead, he felt a calm decision forming in his heart. This world teaches lessons in strange ways, he thought, and today a lesson has begun. As the car drove away, Sharon was already heading home and Jackson was heading somewhere else, both carrying the same moment but in very different ways. And neither of them knew that their paths were going to cross again very soon. The car moved smoothly through the city roads, leaving the dusty market behind. Jackson sat quietly in the back seat, his hands resting on his knees. His face was calm, but his mind was active. He was not thinking about the pain on his cheek anymore. He was thinking about people. How quickly they judge, how easily they misunderstand, and how rarely they pause to listen. Soon the car entered a quiet area with tall gates and clean surroundings. It stopped in front of a simple but well-guarded building. To anyone watching from outside, it looked like an ordinary office. But inside, important decisions were made every day. When Jackson reached the road, a simple-looking car stopped for him. He got in quietly. The driver greeted him with respect. Jackson nodded and sat back, staring out the window. He did not feel anger. He did not plan revenge. Instead, he felt a calm decision forming in his heart. This world teaches lessons in strange ways, he thought. And today, a lesson has begun. As the car drove away, Sharon was already heading home, and Jackson was heading somewhere else, both carrying the same moment but in very different ways. And neither of them knew that their paths were going to cross again very soon. The car moved smoothly through the city roads, leaving the dusty market behind. Jackson sat quietly in the back seat, his hands resting on his knees. His face was calm, but his mind was active. He was not thinking about the pain on his cheek anymore. He was thinking about people, how quickly they judge, how easily they misunderstand, and how rarely they pause to listen. Soon the car entered a quiet area with tall gates and clean surroundings. It stopped in front of a simple but well-guarded building. To anyone watching from outside, it looked like an ordinary office. But inside, important decisions were made every day. "Arrange a visit to the company," Jackson said calmly. "As the owner, sir?" the assistant asked. "No," Jackson replied, "not yet." He wanted to see Sharon again, not as a poor man, not as a boss, but as a silent observer. Meanwhile, across the city, Sharon was at home. She had changed her clothes and was preparing for the next workday, but the market moment kept knocking at her thoughts. She looked at her phone again. What if? She began to think, then stopped. She told herself to focus on work. Tomorrow would be busy. The night passed quietly. Morning came. Sharon dressed sharply and headed to the office, ready to lead, unaware that the quiet man from the market was now moving closer to her world. And behind the curtain of power, Jackson was watching, ready to let truth unfold in its own time. The office building was already alive when Sharon arrived. Workers hurried through the doors, holding files and cups of tea. Phones rang, keyboards clicked, and voices filled the air. Sharon walked in with confidence, just like always. She greeted a few people with short nods and quick smiles. Her mind was focused on the day ahead. There were meetings to lead and targets to meet. A notice had been sent earlier that week. A representative from the owner's side would be visiting. No name, no picture. Just that simple message. It made everyone nervous. Sharon stood in the meeting room, giving instructions. "Let's be sharp today," she said, "no mistakes." That was when the door opened. A man walked in quietly. He was neatly dressed, simple but clean. He did not look rich. He did not look poor. He just looked calm. As soon as Sharon lifted her eyes, her heart skipped. It was him, the man from the market. For a moment, Sharon thought her mind was playing tricks on her. She blinked. But he was still there, standing calmly, looking around the room as if he had every right to be there. "This is Mr. Jackson," someone said. "He's here on behalf of the owner." Sharon forced a smile. Inside, her thoughts were racing. Why is he here? Is this some kind of joke? Jackson's eyes met hers for a brief second. There was no anger in them, no accusation, just quiet recognition. Then he looked away. The meeting began. As the hours passed, Jackson watched. He did not interrupt. He did not criticize. He simply observed. He watched how Sharon spoke to senior staff with confidence and respect. He also watched how she spoke to junior workers, quickly, sometimes sharply, especially when they made small mistakes. At one point, a cleaner accidentally dropped a bucket of water near the hallway. Sharon sighed loudly. "Please be more careful," she said, her voice firm and cold. Jackson noticed how the cleaner's shoulders dropped. Later, a young staff member struggled to explain a report. Sharon corrected him quickly, not unkindly, but without patience. Jackson wrote nothing down. He stored everything in his mind. Sharon, on the other hand, felt uneasy all day. Every time she spoke, she felt like she was being weighed, not judged, but measured. During lunch break, she almost approached Jackson to speak, but fear held her back. She told herself to wait, to understand first. As the day ended, Jackson stood up. "Thank you for your time," he said calmly. "I'll be around more often." Sharon's chest tightened. As Jackson walked out, she realized something that made her uncomfortable. The power in the room had shifted, and she didn't know why. And deep down, she feared that the past she tried to forget was slowly walking back into her present. The next morning, the office felt different. There was a quiet tension in the air, like everyone was holding their breath. People whispered in small groups. Sharon noticed it the moment she stepped inside. Her confidence was still there, but it felt thinner now, like glass that could crack. A message came through her email early that day. All senior staff must attend a special meeting. No explanation. Sharon straightened her jacket and headed to the main meeting room. One by one, the managers took their seats. No one spoke loudly. Everyone was alert. Then the door opened. Jackson walked in. This time, he was not introduced as a representative. Everyone stood up. "Good morning," Jackson said calmly. His voice was soft, but it filled the room. "Please, sit." The room obeyed. Jackson looked around slowly, then spoke again. "My name is Jackson. I am the owner of this company." Silence. The words landed heavily, like stones dropped into still water. Sharon felt the blood drain from her face, the market, the slap, the phone in his hand. Every memory rushed back at once. Her ears rang, her hands grew cold, she could not move. Jackson continued speaking, his tone steady. I have watched this company grow. I have watched how work is done and how people are treated. Success is important, yes, but character is more important. His eyes turned to Sharon, not sharply, not kindly, just honestly. Sharon stood up slowly. Her legs felt weak, but she forced herself to face him. The room was watching. This time she did not run. I know who you are, she said, her voice shaking, and I know what I did. She bowed her head. I was wrong. No excuses, no blame, just truth. Jackson nodded slightly. This meeting is not about punishment, he said. It is about seeing. He paused, letting his words sink in. Titles can hide hearts, clothes can lie. Only actions tell the truth. Sharon felt tears sting her eyes, but she held them back. For the first time in a long while, she was not thinking about her position or her pride. She was thinking about being human. The meeting ended quietly. No shouting, no drama. As people slowly left the room, Sharon remained standing, unsure of what would happen next. Jackson walked toward her and stopped. Stay, he said gently. Her heart pounded. The truth had been spoken. Now came the consequences. The room was almost empty now. Only Sharon and Jackson remained. The door was closed. The noise of the office outside felt far away. Sharon stood still, her hands folded in front of her. She no longer looked like the powerful manager everyone feared. She looked like a person waiting to be understood. Jackson took a seat and motioned for her to sit as well. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Sharon broke the silence. I am sorry, she said again, this time more softly. Not because of who you are, but because of who I was that day. Her voice trembled, but her words were honest. She explained how fear, pride, and habit had controlled her. She did not defend herself. She did not blame the market or the noise. She owned her mistake fully. Jackson listened without interrupting. When she finished, he nodded slowly. Many people apologize when they are caught, he said. Few apologize when they understand. He stood up and walked toward the window. I did not hide my wealth to shame people, he continued. I hid it to learn. Power shows who we are when no one is watching. He turned back to her. You are good at your job, Sharon, but leadership is not only about results. It is about how people feel when they leave your presence. Sharon swallowed hard. I want to change, she said, not just for this company, but for myself. Jackson was silent for a long moment. Then he made his decision. Sharon would remain as general manager, but not without consequence. She would undergo leadership training, work closely with junior staff, and spend time learning the daily struggles of workers at every level. Not as punishment, but as growth. If you fail to change, Jackson said calmly, you will leave. If you succeed, you will become the kind of leader this company truly needs. Tears rolled down Sharon's cheeks, not from fear, but relief. Thank you, she whispered. In the weeks that followed, things began to change. Sharon listened more. She spoke more gently. She learned names she had never cared to learn before. People noticed. Slowly, respect replaced fear. One afternoon, Sharon visited the market again, not in a hurry this time. She saw the same stalls, the same noise, the same dust. But she saw people differently now. Kindness, she learned, does not wear uniforms. And somewhere, quietly watching with a small smile, Jackson knew the lesson had reached its heart. The story ends not with revenge, not with shame, but with growth. Because the strongest people are not those who never fall, but those who learn how to stand again.